My husband found a wealthy mistress and often used her credit card to secretly transfer money to me. In just 6 months, he had transferred more than $800,000. I pretended not to know. Happily, I accepted the money and spent it like crazy. Until one day, the mistress came to my company and slapped me in the face. "Did you and your husband plan this together? Just to scam me alone? You shameless bastards." Ding! This novel reminds you to click the subscribe button in the bottom right corner to read the complete novel. Her slap left my head buzzing and my cheek burning with pain. This woman's strength was incredible. "Say something, are you feeling guilty?" She grabbed my collar and said viciously. "Let me tell you, Violet, I will take back every cent he transferred to you through legal means. I will make sure you and your husband pay for this. You must be out of your minds, using such a method to cheat my money. You disgust me." People in the company noticed the commotion and started looking our way. Some colleagues even excitedly took out their phones to record. Suddenly, I became the center of attention and the focus of everyone's discussions. "Who are you? What gives you the right to hit me?" I covered my swollen cheek, suppressing my anger. "And how do you know my name? Still pretending, huh? I'll make you stop pretending." She rushed over and pushed me hard. This time, her strength was even greater, and I fell to the ground with a loud thud. "Look at this!" She threw a stack of A4 paper at me. These statements clearly show that the recipient is Violet. "What else do you have to say? You and your husband are obviously conspiring to scam money." After saying this, she turned to the entire company and shouted, "With a scammer like her, how can you still work with her? Aren't you afraid she'll cheat you out of everything one day?" I looked down at my hand, which was scraped and bleeding from the fall, and struggled to get up, only to be pushed down again by her. "Trying to get up? It's already merciful of me not to make you kneel. Give back the money, return it to me right now. If you don't, believe me, I'll make sure you can't spend a single cent of it." Seeing the situation getting worse, my colleagues couldn't stand it anymore and started to intervene. "Stop it, or we'll call the police." "Yeah, take it outside if you want to fight, we're working here." "Call them, I dare you." She shook off the colleagues trying to pull her away, laughing wildly. "I'd love to see how the police handle a disgusting scammer like her." "Ma'am." I glared at her, trying hard to suppress my urge to fight back. But thinking of my plan, I calmly said, "Is there some misunderstanding between us? I don't even know you. What evidence do you have that my husband and I are scamming you?" "These statements are the evidence." I pretended not to understand. "What do these statements have to do with me? Did I ask you to transfer money to me? Stop playing dumb, Violet. I don't believe you didn't know the money was transferred by your husband." I sat up straight, staring directly at her. "Why would my husband use your card to transfer money to me? What is your relationship?" "We." She was at a loss for words, looking around nervously. "That's none of your business. The fact is, you and your husband are scamming me, right? Why isn't it my business? Are you a mistress supported by my husband? Otherwise, why would he use your card to transfer money to me? And why would you willingly give him your card? Bullshit, your husband is a broke loser, how could he support me? It's me who's supporting him." Her words caused the onlookers to gasp. "So you're admitting it? You do have an improper relationship with him?" She looked embarrassed but still stubbornly said, "So what if I admit it? Scott Walsh is a backstabbing jerk. I must have been blind to fall for him. Not only does he spend my money, but he also uses my money to support his wife. He's truly shameless. If I catch him, I'll beat him every time I see him. This is a society governed by law, hitting people comes with consequences." I took out my phone and showed the call log. "I've already called the police. They will be here soon, and our company has surveillance cameras. Everything that happened today is recorded, and my colleagues can all testify for me. I will sue you for provoking trouble and intentional injury, and I won't accept any form of settlement. See you at the police station." She got furious the moment she heard I was going to sue her, and rushed at me to hit me again. Just then, the security and police arrived simultaneously. I tidied up my clothes, wiped the blood off my palm, and followed her into the police car. As soon as we arrived at the police station, she started making a scene, crying and yelling that she had been deceived out of her body, money, and feelings. She even took out chat logs and transfer records, accusing me and Scott Walsh of conspiring to cheat her. Officers, look at this. It's obvious this couple are scammers. Don't wrong an innocent person. For half a year, her husband has been using my card to transfer money to her. I'm a poor divorced woman with a child. How could I have any ulterior motives? I was just lonely and had a little money, so I wanted to find a man to keep me company. But what about him? He had no feelings for me at all. He took my money to support his wife. The police on duty were stunned, completely taken aback by her claims. However, evidence is needed for everything. Her so-called evidence only proved that she had an improper relationship with my husband, Scott Walsh. Other than that, it proved nothing. On the other hand, the evidence I submitted was solid. If I didn't agree to a settlement, she would definitely be detained. Just as I was thinking this, my husband Scott arrived. As soon as the woman saw him, she rushed over and started beating him up, cursing and crying at the same time. Scott Walsh, you liar. You'll die a horrible death for deceiving me so badly. See if I don't beat you to death. Scott tightly covered his face, and the scene immediately descended into chaos. After being pulled apart by the staff on the scene, he touched the scratches on his face and cursed through gritted teeth. Sabrina, are you out of your mind? Can you stop making a scene? Me, making a scene? How dare you say I'm making a scene? You and your wife conspired to cheat me, and I can't seek justice for myself? I treated you so well, where's your conscience eaten by a dog? As she spoke, the woman named Sabrina suddenly sat on the ground, breaking down in tears. Seeing this, Scott was momentarily at a loss. Officers, you see, this woman is simply crazy. She knew I was married but kept pestering me. You have to stand up for me. And also, about her hitting my wife, we don't accept a settlement. Handle it according to the law. Look at these scratches she gave me. Ouch, it hurts so much. Hearing this, Sabrina went completely mad. Scott Walsh, are you even human? How can you treat me like this? I don't believe you never loved me. Just last night, you held me and said you had no feelings for your wife anymore and couldn't wait to divorce her and marry me. You even said she was like a dead fish in bed, not comparable to me in any way. What, now that you've pulled your pants up, you deny everything? Shut up! Scott shouted at her, have you no shame in public? You may not want your dignity, but I still want mine. If it weren't for you threatening to kill yourself, who would want to be with you? Love you? What a joke! I just wanted to get some money from you to support my family. The person I love is my wife. I will never divorce her, let alone marry you. Just give up. After saying that, he held my hand and looked at me apologetically. I'm sorry, honey. I'll explain everything when we get home. Anyway, it's not what you think between her and me. Please don't overthink, okay? His words were sincere and he seemed very genuine. I was momentarily unsure how to respond. Actually, Scott is quite a contradictory person. I haven't been able to understand him for a long time. You could say he treats me well, but he did cheat on me during our marriage. You could say he doesn't treat me well, but even while cheating, he took money from his mistress to spend on me. He really couldn't bear to see me suffer even a little. That night, Scott knelt in front of me in the presence of both our parents. My father-in-law was so angry that he slapped him several times, making his face swell. Scott accepted it all without a word. It is indeed my fault. You have every right to hit me and scold me. He bowed his head and said earnestly. But please believe me, I never thought of divorcing Vivi. As for that woman, there's nothing between us. Nothing between you, and yet she willingly spends money on you? Do you think we are fools? You beast, you have disgraced the Walsh family. See if I don't beat you to death. Seeing my father-in-law raise his hand to hit him again, I hurriedly stepped forward to stop him. After all, I still needed Scott's face to make money for me. Forget it, Dad. Maybe Scott really has his difficulties. I met that woman today. She is indeed not a good person. Who knows what means she used to force Scott? My father-in-law widened his eyes in surprise. Vivi, are you okay? It's come to this, and you're still speaking up for him? Then he kicked Scott, who was kneeling on the ground. Take a good look. Do you think you deserve such a good wife? Marrying Vivi was a blessing for our family. Let it go, in-laws. My dad also started to persuade. Since this has already happened, beating him to death won't help. Let the young couple handle it themselves. Our Vivi has always been decisive. I believe she can handle it well. My dad was right, I was indeed decisive. In fact, I had known about Scott's affair for a long time but just didn't expose it. I had cried, broken down, and doubted myself countless times. But now I understood. A man's infidelity has nothing to do with a woman, it's just that he is inherently scum. There's no need to find fault with myself. Honey, it was really that woman, Sabrina, who forced me. After they left, Scott remained kneeling on the ground, holding my hand and explaining. If I didn't agree to her, she would cry, make a scene, and threaten to kill herself. I couldn't just watch her die in front of me, could I? Besides, we didn't lose out, right? The more than $800,000 I transferred from her account to yours is more than we could earn in years. I once said I would work hard to give you a good life. Now I have achieved that, right? I was amused and didn't know whether to scold him or praise him. After all, according to his logic, he cheated for my sake. So you think I should be grateful to you? No, honey, I just beg you not to divorce me. What about Sabrina? Let her die. As long as we hold on to the fact that she hit you, she will definitely go to jail. We can use this opportunity to completely destroy her. Obviously, Sabrina is not so easily destroyed. She is not someone to be trifled with. Because not long after this incident, she came to us again, directly handing my husband a pregnancy test report, and said to him, I'm pregnant, and the child is yours. If you want your child to die, go ahead and let your wife sue me. Scott looked at the report, first in shock, then with an unstoppable smile on his lips. He had always wanted a child. We had been married for 5 years, and I still hadn't gotten pregnant. He said he didn't mind being child-free, but deep down, he wanted to be a father more than anyone else. Sabrina obviously knew this too. She glanced disdainfully in my direction and continued speaking. I remember you said your wife couldn't have children, right? Scott, are you sure you want to kill your own son for this useless woman who can't even bear children? If you divorce her and marry me, I can pretend nothing ever happened. I have plenty of money, so supporting you and our son for a lifetime is no problem, and I truly like you. Choose between her and me. Hearing her words, Scott's gaze towards me became increasingly complex. After a while, he made a move. Sabrina and I were both stunned. He tore up the report, ripped it into pieces. His expression and actions were so determined, as if all the previous emotions were just my imagination. Sabrina. As he tore, he said coldly to Sabrina, Stop trying to fool me. I always take precautions, you can't be pregnant. Besides, you're just a mistress who can't be seen in public. How could I let you bear my child? Your child would be illegitimate. Do you think I'd let him become a stain on my life? With that, he threw the shredded paper in Sabrina's face. I'll say it again. The only person I love is my wife. Whether she can have children or not, she's the only one I'll love in this life. And I will never divorce her to marry someone like you. Got it? Sabrina obviously didn't expect him to react this way. She was completely stunned. After a while, she lost control and rushed forward, slapping Scott twice. She screamed hysterically. You bastard, you won't even acknowledge your own son. I'm telling you, Scott Walsh, I'll definitely get a paternity test and make you take full responsibility, ruining your reputation. I will never let you live peacefully. Scott didn't dodge once. Covering his face, he threatened her viciously. Go ahead, hit me harder. That way, my wife and I can sue you together. Stupid woman, I'll make sure you suffer. At this moment, I should have stepped in to break them up. But seeing this dog-eat-dog fight, I suddenly felt a thrill and didn't want them to stop. Sabrina looked at me, excitedly watching the drama unfold, and suddenly realized something. She became even more hysterical. You dare say you two aren't conspiring against me? Suddenly, she started gasping for air, supporting herself against the wall with one hand. Then, under our gaze, she collapsed to the floor with a thud. What? Are you trying to play the victim? Scott sneered disdainfully. We have cameras in our house. You can't frame us. Hey, Sabrina? After calling her a few times with no response from Sabrina lying on the floor, Scott visibly panicked. Oh God, what's wrong? Don't scare me. Rena. Damn it, always causing trouble for me. Cursing under his breath, Scott carefully picked her up, placed her in the car, and then sped towards the hospital. In his haste and worry, he forgot I was still there. No problem, he forgot me, but I didn't forget him. I took out my phone and called his parents. After all, they were about to have a grandchild. Such a joyous event had to be shared, right? When I arrived at the hospital with Scott's parents, Sabrina was already awake. She wasn't in any serious condition, just fainted from anger. But the doctor repeatedly warned that she was still in the early stages of pregnancy. And must be careful with her emotions, or she could miscarry at any time. Who here is the patient's family? Everyone in the room looked at each other, no one daring to speak. Seeing the awkward atmosphere, I gritted my teeth, raised my hand, and said, none of us are, but we all are. Because the child in her womb is my husband's. Hearing this, Scott wished he could find a hole to crawl into. The old Mr. Walsh looked at him as if he wanted to swallow him whole. Due to the complicated relationships, the doctor didn't quite grasp it all at once but didn't ask further. He simply gave a few instructions and then asked me to go pay the fees. Coincidentally, I ran into my colleague Nicole at the payment counter. Nicole is always gossiping. Most of the messy and scandalous stories I hear at the company come from her, including the day Sabrina caused a scene at the company, which she recorded and posted online. As a result, we ended up trending locally. Vivi? What are you doing here? Who's sick? She stared straight at the bill in my hand and snatched it away before I could react. Oh my, are you pregnant? No, wait, Sabrina. Who's Sabrina? Your relative? Suddenly, she seemed to remember something and looked at me in disbelief. Could it be, she's the one from that day? Yes, it's her. I decided to just go with it. She's pregnant, the child is my husband's, so I'm here to take care of her. Her eyes widened even more. I wondered if they might pop out if she kept staring like that. Are you serious? Vivi, how can you tolerate this? I thought those stories online about the wife taking care of the mistress during her confinement were just jokes, but it turns out. Realizing she had said too much, she quickly covered her mouth. No doubt, she would soon post about this online, considering many netizens were eagerly waiting for updates. When I returned to the ward after paying, I saw my mother-in-law helping my father-in-law out. It seemed Mr. Walsh was so angry he was having trouble breathing. Seeing me, he apologized with a face full of guilt. Vivi, our family owes you an apology. It's our fault for not raising Scott properly. Don't worry, as long as I have breath in me, I will never allow that woman and her child to enter the Walsh family. Hearing this, my mother-in-law hit him angrily. What nonsense are you talking about? Isn't that your grandson? Are you just going to watch the Walsh family line end? Shut up! Aren't you ashamed enough? Our son turned out like this because of your spoiling. I wasn't interested in their argument. I had long seen through it all. In the entire Walsh family, only my father-in-law had some sense of reason. As for my mother-in-law, she was so desperate for a grandchild that she was more excited than angry upon learning of Sabrina's pregnancy. Returning to the ward, I noticed Scott was not there. His father just hit him on the head, he's gone to get it bandaged. Sabrina said hoarsely, losing all her previous arrogance. Only then did I notice the mess in the ward, with bloodstains on the floor, indicating it had been more than just a verbal fight. Miss Violet, let's talk. I ignored her. She continued speaking on her own. I know you won't forgive me, and I admit it was wrong to interfere in your marriage, but I truly love him. I don't mind spending money on him, or even on you. I have plenty of money. You probably don't know this. My ex-husband was a nouveau riche who abused me for years. It took a lot of effort for me to divorce him. Logically, I should be afraid of marriage, but Scott gave me love and confidence. I hope you can let us be together. Do you really believe Scott loves you? From beginning to end, he has never said he loves you, nor has he said he wants to marry you. You're wrong. She confidently said, he does love me, he just doesn't want to admit it. After all, I'm the mistress, and his sense of morality is so strong. You don't know how satisfied he is when he's with me. If it weren't for you standing in the way, we would definitely be very happy. Really? But why should I make things easy for you? I can give you money. Miss Sabrina, not everything in this world can be solved with money. I've known him for 10 years, been married for 5, 1 million. What did you say? I said, I'll give you 1 million, as long as you divorce him and let us be together. Logically, in this situation, I should regard money as dirt, should scold her harshly, despise her. Tell her to stay away from my husband, and not to meddle. But for some reason, I just couldn't say it. I knew very well in my heart that even if she didn't give me the money, I would still divorce Scott. The rest of my life is long, and I can't spend it with a scumbag like him, it's too filthy. Since that's the case, why not take the opportunity to make a profit? If I'm going to profit, I might as well make it big. Isn't Sabrina rich? Then I'll make her bleed as much as possible. You should know our case isn't over yet, right? With the evidence I have, sending you to jail is a piece of cake. As for Scott, I have plenty of ways to make him divorce me and leave with nothing. At this point, I paused and smiled lightly. So, Miss Sabrina, why do you think a mere 1 million can buy me off? 2 million. I smiled and shook my head, indicating it wasn't enough. She bit her lip and clenched her fists subconsciously. 3 million. Seeing that I still didn't speak, her tone became a bit pleading. No more, really, you've already taken over 800,000 from me, this 3 million is my compensation to you. I apologize, I shouldn't have hit you in public that day, okay? Miss Violet, I don't want to fall out with you. If it weren't for loving the same man, we might have been friends. Forget it, I wouldn't dare have a friend like you. I compromised, I can agree to divorce Scott, but whether he's willing or not, I can't say. Don't worry about that, I have ways to make him initiate it. Okay, I'll wait. Since she agreed so readily, and her tone was so humble, I suspected I might have asked for too little. But thinking about Scott, that rotten cucumber, isn't worth that much money, I felt balanced again. Forget it. Just consider it cheap second-hand goods. Since she loves recycling garbage, let her recycle him. But the matter of divorce was obviously not as simple as I thought, because no matter how I discussed it with Scott, he firmly disagreed. I've told you many times, there's nothing between me and that woman, I was purely deceived by her. Didn't you say you believe me? It doesn't matter, what matters is she is pregnant with your child, and this child needs a father. I'll make her get an abortion, isn't that enough? No. My eyes welled up as I looked at him with deep affection. Honey, you know better than anyone how much I love you. For you, I can endure any kind of grievance in this world. Precisely because of this, I can't hold you back. I know you want a child, and I haven't been able to conceive. Now, God has blessed us, another woman is pregnant. What reason do I have not to fulfill your wish? He was stunned. But honey, can you bear to be apart from me? Of course not, but there's no choice. Now Sabrina's emotions are unstable, and her pregnancy is at risk. We have to divorce temporarily so she can be at ease. Temporarily? You mean, we can remarry after Sabrina safely gives birth? Then, I will help you raise the child together. How about that? You're not lying to me? Of course not. Honey, you're so considerate. My dad was right, marrying you was really a blessing for our family. He hugged me excitedly and spun me around. Though I was disgusted, I couldn't push him away, fearing I would give myself away. After all, only by coaxing him to get that divorce certificate could I smoothly get the 3 million Sabrina promised me. Actually, even if I didn't do this, there were always ways to divorce Scott as long as I wanted to. After all, our affair had already spread online. After Scott's company found out, they fired him immediately. He lost his job and was relying on Sabrina to support him, plus Sabrina was pregnant with his child. No matter what, he wouldn't really fall out with her. And all the affectionate acts he put on in front of me were just self-deception. If he really loved me as much as he said, then what happened with Sabrina wouldn't have occurred at all. Saying he was just trying to get money from Sabrina to support me, only an idiot would believe that. When I first found out he was cheating on me with Sabrina, I was devastated. I took advantage of his sleep, unlocked his phone with his fingerprint, and secretly read their chat records. He told Sabrina that a woman who couldn't have children was no different from being useless. He also said that after being married for so many years, he had long lost feelings for me. Even if she lay naked on the bed, I wouldn't have any reaction. She's as boring as a dead fish. In my heart, she can't even compare to one of your fingers. You're so beautiful, so rich, you're simply the most precious gift from heaven, you're my salvation. There were many more messages like this. No wonder Sabrina didn't believe Scott had no feelings for her. Every word Scott said revealed his admiration and infatuation with her, and she was so starved for love. This was also why she went crazy when she discovered Scott secretly used her credit card to transfer money to me. It wasn't the money that hurt her. What truly broke her was Scott's deception. Even later, when Scott publicly distanced himself from her multiple times, even going so far as to humiliate her and curse her out, she still chose to forgive him. Because she saw Scott through rose-colored glasses. During that dark time right after her divorce, it was Scott who stayed by her side, it was Scott who made her believe she was worthy of love. From that time on, I had already given up on Scott. Countless late nights, I lay sleepless, repeatedly asking myself what I had done wrong, why I wasn't as good as her. But later, I figured it out, I hadn't done anything wrong. The reason Scott treated me this way was simply because he was a scumbag, and it had nothing to do with me. This is also why, no matter how many heartfelt acts he put on in front of me later, I remained indifferent. He didn't love me at all. He only loved his own reputation. He thought that by claiming the affair was for my own good, he could make me forgive him. And then act as if nothing had happened, continue being the good husband, continue playing the loving couple with me. But he never imagined that this matter would blow up. It spread online. And as a public figure, not only did he lose his reputation, his job, and became a joke in everyone's eyes, but he was also forced to live off his lover. The day we got the divorce certificate, it started to rain lightly. He looked a little lost as he watched my departing figure. Once he recovered, he quickly chased after me. "Vivi, are you lying to me? You won't remarry me, will you?" I smiled at him without saying anything. "Why?" he asked frantically, looking very agitated. "Why are you doing this to me? You told me you loved me, that you willingly fulfilled my wishes, that you would raise the child with me, all lies?" I still didn't say anything. Did you know about me and Sabrina all along?" His voice trembled, there was a sense of humiliation, like being stripped naked and exposed under the sun. "Scott Walsh, admit it, you love her." I looked at him calmly and said, "This outcome might be exactly what you wanted." "I don't love her, I love you. I was only with her to get some money to support the household. Are you still deceiving yourself at this point?" "I'm not, I'm telling the truth." "Maybe, but it doesn't matter anymore." I crossed my arms and looked at him steadily. "Actually, you should know, since your affair is a fact, no matter what, I would divorce you. In my life principles, a man who cheats must be discarded, there's no such thing as cleaning him up and continuing to use him. Too dirty, I have a cleanliness obsession. From the moment Scott used Sabrina's card to transfer money to me, I knew that one day, Everything would be exposed, and Sabrina would come after me. And that day would be the day my relationship with Scott officially ended. This meant he could no longer earn money for me, meaning he no longer had any use for me. Given that, why should I continue to stay with him? Moreover, at that time, I was the perfect victim. A woman betrayed by her husband, beaten by the mistress, pitted by the entire internet. So, under these circumstances, it wasn't unreasonable for me to make any demands during the divorce. However, I clearly underestimated Scott's feelings for me. Or rather, I underestimated his unwillingness and desire for revenge regarding the entire incident. Because shortly after our divorce, he had a huge fight with Sabrina. Threatened to break up with her, and said he wanted to remarry me. And Sabrina, unable to handle the shock, climbed up to the rooftop. She threatened to kill herself to show him. Scott Walsh. For you, I've been scorned by the world, looked down upon by my own daughter and family. I've lost so much money, suffered so many grievances, and now, I've risked my life to get pregnant and have a child for you, just to fulfill your dream of being a father. But what about you? Sabrina sobbed uncontrollably. The wind on the rooftop was so strong that her voice trembled with every word. When you were with me, you used my card to transfer money to your wife. And you still have the nerve to say that you made her life better with your own efforts. I finally got her to agree to a divorce, but you not only refused to marry me. You even want me to abort the child and not take responsibility. Why? I just want to know why. Why the hell do you treat me like this? What did I, Sabrina, ever do to wrong you? Tell me. This is crazy, truly crazy. Scott was going mad on the spot, but he had no way to deal with her. Can't we talk this out calmly? Please come down, I'm begging you. Seeing that Sabrina had no intention of coming down, his patience was wearing thin. Sabrina, can you stop making a scene like this? Can you try something else? This is really pointless. You think I'm joking with you? Do you really not care if I live or die? Including the child in my belly? Sabrina shouted at him in a breakdown, completely irrational. Do you believe me or not, I will really jump to my death. Seeing her turn as if to jump from the dozen or so floors, Scott had no choice but to concede. Okay, I believe you, I'll marry you, alright? I won't get back together with my wife, okay? Your wife. Even now, you still call her your wife? Ex-wife. Then swear it. Scott speechlessly raised 3 fingers. I, Scott Walsh, swear to heaven, if I don't marry Sabrina in this life, may I die a terrible death and never be reborn. Are you satisfied now? Well, that's more like it. But just as Sabrina was about to come down, she suddenly slipped, and her whole body fell uncontrollably. Even I, watching the live stream on my phone, gasped in shock. My heart almost stopped. In the next second, Scott lunged forward and grabbed her wrist. But he was too weak, and within seconds, he was pulled down by Sabrina. Ah. 2 piercing screams came from the phone, and I was so scared that my palms were sweating. Oh my God, did these 2 really jump? Scott's oath just got fulfilled so quickly? Holy crap, this is too intense. Following the livestream camera, I looked down from the rooftop and saw that a crowd had already gathered below. The person filming said, "From what we can see, both of them have been carried into an ambulance and should not be in life-threatening condition." After all, someone had called 911 and firefighters had already set up a safety cushion below. Just as I saw this, a phone call interrupted. It was Scott's mother. "Vivi, you need to come to the hospital quickly. Scott fell from the building, and we don't know if he's alive or dead." What are we going to do? She cried as she spoke, and towards the end, it was almost inaudible. Your father-in-law stroked because of Scott's affair and is now bedridden. If something happens to Scott, how am I supposed to live? I might as well die. Mom. I mean, Mrs. Walsh, please don't worry. How can I not worry? If you hadn't insisted on divorcing Scott, would it have come to this? So what if he had an affair? So what if he had a child with another woman? It's because you can't have children. All right then, if that's the case, Why are you calling me? Just go to the hospital and collect your son's body. I'm not going to indulge you. But after I hung up, she called again. I kept hanging up, and she kept calling. In the end, I had no choice but to go to the hospital to see him. After all, if I didn't see it with my own eyes, I wouldn't believe that retribution really exists in this world. They both ultimately survived, narrowly escaping death. But it was a fate worse than death. Sabrina suffered a massive hemorrhage due to a miscarriage. And because the situation was so severe, the doctors had no choice but to remove her uterus. From then on, she could no longer fulfill Scott's dream of becoming a father. This also meant that she no longer had any leverage to keep Scott by her side. This was possibly more painful for her than dying outright. And Scott didn't fare much better. The massive impact from the fall broke both his legs, condemning him to a life in a wheelchair. Given his usual pride, he probably couldn't accept the fact that he would be disabled for life, right? But there was no choice, this was fate. The last time I went to see him, he cried out in grief, repeatedly apologizing to me in a hoarse voice. He kept emphasizing that I was the one he had always loved. I was with Sabrina out of a momentary impulse. The chat records you saw weren't real. I was just trying to make her happy so she'd spend money on me without any reservations. Honey, do you believe me? I don't ask for your forgiveness, nor do I ask for another chance to reconcile. I only ask that you believe in my feelings for you. I was somewhat speechless. Does it matter? Of course it matters. It affects whether I spend the rest of my life in regret. As long as you believe me, I'll feel that my love for you is pure. I don't believe you. Not only do I not believe you, but I also find you particularly disgusting. I said mercilessly. Cheating is cheating. No matter how you try to sugarcoat it, it's still cheating. Scott Walsh, if you had straightforwardly admitted that you didn't love me anymore, or that you had a change of heart, I might have at least respected you as a man. That would have shown you had the courage to take responsibility for your actions. But you? You never admitted it and kept disgusting me by saying that your cheating was for my own good. Do you think I'm an idiot? Do you even believe what you're saying? He wanted to continue explaining, but I had lost interest in listening. Before leaving, I told him, the one who is infertile isn't me, it's you. I altered the name on the report just to protect your fragile male ego. He was struck as if by lightning, his pupils dilating instantly. So, the child in Sabrina's belly isn't yours. She must have deceived you. Recalling all that had happened, his eyes gradually turned bloodshot and he nearly ground his molars to dust. I knew it, I knew that crazy woman was scheming against me. Maybe she just liked you too much and wanted to be with you. Like? Ha, she just wanted to find a father for her child, and I was the foolish sucker who fell for it. Maybe, but that has nothing to do with me. I slowly stood up with my bag, calmly looking at him before turning around. Scott Walsh, I don't want to hear about or care about your affairs anymore. Take care of your injuries. I hope you can stand again in your lifetime, and as for us, we never need to see each other again. Vivi? Vivi! He cried out helplessly as I walked away. Honey, don't go. I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. Please look back at me, okay? Look at me. His voice, mixed with desperate sobs, sounded like the wail of some animal. It was heart-wrenching, somewhat pitiable, and even more pathetic. But my heart remained unmoved. I only wanted, in this lifetime, to stay as far away from him as possible.